Greetings, people of the World Wide Web. My name is Vulperine, and today we're gonna light some shit on fire.
Ooh, wow. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, yeah.
Rip. Perfect. Life is hard sometimes, but if it wasn't, then it would be boring. There's work, there's school, there's a number of things that must be done in between, but there's too little time to do them all. I love it! So today I'm going to talk about something relatable for a lot of furries, and that is being broke. We like to spend money. That's not just a furry thing, that's a people thing in general, but furries have a huge online economy specializing in customized artworks and large animal costumes that cost lots of money. You may have come to a point in your involvement in the fandom where you might just want to buy a few things, but here's a question you should consider. Is it worth it? Well, that just depends upon a few factors, so here are 5 things to think about before spending money on furry stuff. Let's get right into it. Now, the first thing to consider is, do you have a job? This is a hard one for many people in general, regardless of hobbies. Many furries are very young and aren't old enough to get jobs, but having a job and making money is an absolute must if you're trying to buy furry-related things. For those of us that do have jobs, it can be even harder because we realize that there are other things we need to spend money on before we can arbitrarily buy furry merchandise. If you have a car, for example, you'll want to save up some money for insurance and gas, which in itself can be a large portion of your budget. You'll want to save up a chunk of money as an emergency fund in case something goes wrong with your car and you need to get repairs. This is absolutely more important than a fursuit. Budgeting is just a part of adulting. Make a list of your priorities first and save up some money to cover each of these possibilities, just in case. It may be that you'll have to wait a long time, often many months up to a few years, to save up enough money for a fursuit, especially if you're working part-time in a minimum wage job. But the smaller items, such as art commissions, can be as cheap as $20 to above $150 for full-color digital masterpieces. Those things can usually be paid for by saving a portion of your paycheck every pay period for a few months. Things like fursuits, though, take much longer. This kind of saving, if you have a minimum wage job, can take up to a year or longer of saving to afford. Make sure, though, that you're careful with your money. I speak from experience. There was a time I felt like I'd saved enough money to commission a fursuit, and then suddenly my car starts having problems. Then I'm very happy I've saved up $3 grand to fix it. And it does suck to know that I have to save up all over again for things that I want, but I'm also happy to know that I have taken care of my higher priorities first. Great saving habits can be hard to build at first, but they're a necessary skill to have as you grow up and have more responsibilities. Another thing you should consider is, do you have supportive parents? If your family is a little more well off, then you might do well to ask them if they can front you some money for furry-related things. But if you haven't told them that you're a furry, and they don't have a good idea of what really furry even is, then I'd first break it to them slowly. Do your research and write down your thoughts before you tell them. This conversation should be well thought out on your end, and you'll want to be as informed as possible for when they inevitably ask you questions. They may also be very hostile at first. There are unfortunately many parents out there who will take some persuading, and this is because furries in the media have received a bad rap. If you can convince them that this hobby is something wholesome, then they might be inclined to trust you and support you. If you have this conversation with them and they're still not open to the idea that you're into this thing, then the possibility of getting a little money for furry artwork may be out of the question, in which case you'll definitely have to wait until you can get a job for yourself and spend your own money. Like I said, life is tough sometimes, but it'll work itself out eventually. Just be patient. The third thing you need to consider are other financial responsibilities. This one goes without saying, but if you have children yourself, or are planning to have children, then they are obviously your first priority. I didn't need to tell you that, you already knew. But there are other financial responsibilities that exist too. Say you're independent, and you have to make rent, or buy food. Then this kind of goes with the first point, because this kind of saving requires that you save no more than 10% of your paycheck for a fursuit, which makes the timeline for getting a fursuit much longer. How much you budget from each paycheck depends upon your situation. I just use 10% as an acceptable amount that I would save. But again, your financial needs may be different. Also, I would not advise putting fursuit payments on a credit card either, unless you have good credit and are timely with your payments. But if this is your only option to be able to afford it, because you don't feel like you can come up with several $1,000s up front, then make sure you're ready to pay the interest on those payments. You may be able to get your suit faster, but at what cost? Depending on the time frame by which you pay off your credit card, you may be setting yourself up for a debt situation that you wish you never had gotten yourself into. So if you have a great credit score and the ability to pay things off, then it's your choice, and do as you will. Adulting can be fun, but there are definite priorities. The fourth thing is, do you really know exactly what you want? This one is less about money and more about your satisfaction with whatever art piece or fursuit you decide to get. If you don't know for sure what you want your character to look like, or if you don't have a reference sheet, then you can only be mad at yourself when the art piece or fursuit doesn't come back to you looking the way you expected it to. Then you'll be out a bunch of money that you carefully saved up over a long time. You can't return a fursuit, you can't get a money-back guarantee. These are detailed, handmade items that are made to order, and it takes lots of time and effort to create. You'll want to first pay someone to do a ref sheet of your desired character, unless you want something along the lines of a creative liberty or artistic liberty suit, which gives the maker full rights to do whatever they want with your character. If you're not satisfied with the results, then you just gotta deal with it. But remember that a reference sheet also costs money. But the benefits of having one, though, far outweigh the monetary costs, because with a reference sheet, you have something for the artist or the maker to go by when creating whatever it is you're asking for. Artists need reference sheets so that they can accurately draw your character, and fursuit makers certainly need one. In fact, many makers will flat out refuse you if you don't have one, or if they're friendly, then they'll sit down with you and have someone draw your character right then and there, which, also, you guessed it, costs money. Either way, having a reference sheet for your character or characters will help you figure out what kind of artwork or fursuit you want done. Also remember, every single fursuit maker is wildly different in their styles. Without getting too much into detail on this, imagine this suit, a super toony Morpholess suit, compared with this suit, a super realistic Beetlecat suit. From these opposites, imagine a whole spectrum of styles in between. That's a lot to choose from. So make sure you do your research, and if you find a maker you like, visualize your character in that maker's style. If that sounds appealing, then go for it! The fifth thing to consider is how often will you actually use this item. If you're thinking about getting a fursuit, imagine all the scenarios in which you'd actually wear it around. If you're a frequent con-goer, then maybe wearing a giant fluffy animal costume would be a good chance for you to express yourself in front of lots of people. You'll get praise and hugs, which makes the money you spent go a long way towards your satisfaction from the fandom. However, if you don't really go to conventions or you're otherwise not really involved heavily in the social side of this activity, then maybe reevaluate your choice. If you bought a fursuit, would you just wear it alone, or with friends who are normies? You might get some weird looks. But if you're doing YouTube, then at least you'd have an audience, but at that point, you're still not really wearing your suit in public. You can be a YouTuber without a fursuit. Remember also that another option is to build one yourself. Look at me! I built this suit myself, and I've been wearing it to conventions and on here as much as I can. But I don't think it would have been practical or smart to have commissioned a fursuit when I just discovered the fandom, which is why I decided to build mine myself. This is another option available to you, although it is very tricky and takes a lot of time and effort and a bunch of mistakes to get it right. Not to mention, you'll still have to buy materials and tools and glue and things. Things cost money. In building this suit, I spent a total of $137 exactly on materials and hot glue and everything, which is a heck of a lot less than I would have paid to commission someone to build it for me. This is my first iteration, and I already have ideas for my second one. If you're curious about fursuiting, try motivating yourself to build your own suit at first. If you wear it and like it, even if you don't like how it looks, but feel good wearing your character, then go for it. Commission a fursuit and have fun. I'm not trying to tell you not to buy one, just really consider how many times you would actually use it every year. Well, that's the thesis.
That's the thesis.
I hope that this topic has given you some insight as to the monetary costs of commissioning artworks and fursuits. If you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe and leave a comment or a question for me down below. I might want to do a Q&A sometime soon if I ever get enough feedback. I know that it's been done before by everyone ever, but it's an easy video idea and I've always wanted to do one. Let me know what you think and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Before I go, I'd like to thank the viewers that have been with me from the start. You all have seen me from a year ago until today. I've been on YouTube for a year now, and I haven't done much, but thank you for being with me all the way. I appreciate it, and I'll try to mention you in my next video if y'all leave me some questions. Bye, y'all! I know, what a terrible, terrible pun. Actually, that could actually be a good maker's name. Go for it! I like it.